What do you think it means to be a good athlete?
I think to be a good or a great athlete, you need to be a great student, because you need to continue to learn. And I felt all through my indoor volleyball and then beach volleyball career that I'd never finished learning. And our coach, Steve Anderson, our beach volleyball coach, he said we are all students of the game. And even though I respected him as being one of the best coaches in the world, he still said he's a student of the game. He's learning every single time. And he could watch, and I feel the same, we could watch any level of our sport, whether it was grassroots level or the elite level, and learn something from everybody. So being a student, a great learner, is incredibly important. The physical part of it, that sort of comes down the end, you know. Obviously everyone's going to have different physical attributes which lend themselves better to different sports. But then in the middle, I would say, is the mindset. And to be really great, you have to have an incredible champion mindset to be able to deal with the pressure, the wins, the losses, the average days, you know, the relationships that you form with your teammates and your coach. And there's just a myriad of things that, you know, you have to learn to be good at. So I would have to say being a student.
So then on the flip side, I guess, what lets athletes down? And I don't just mean individually themselves, but everything that's around them.
What lets athletes down? I guess, I mean, there are a number of things that athletes can do that sort of sabotage their success, and I guess their own personal belief. And that's probably the other flip side. You have to have that champion mindset and the belief that you can achieve what you're setting out to. And on the other side, if they don't make it, it's probably in the end that last little ingredient is their belief. It doesn't matter how hard you train, you know, how much technique you learn, and even how well you begin to deal with setbacks. At the end of the day, if you don't really believe that you can be number one or believe that you can get to the point that you've set out to get to, then it's going to be like luck. Yeah. Then it's sort of kind of lucky. Will your opponent be unlucky on that day? Will all the balls fall on their side? Yeah. You know, things like that. And you can't rely on luck. You have to believe. And a great example of how Natalie Cook and I believed so strongly that we were going to win the gold medal was that the night before that Olympic final, neither of us got any sleep. We were so excited about playing the next day in the Olympic final on Bondi Beach in my hometown, home country, the whole works. And I asked her a few weeks later, I said, what were you thinking that night, you know, when you were lying there? Were you sleeping? She said, no. I said, neither was I. I said, what were you thinking about? And she said, I was practicing my victory speech. And I looked at her incredibly and I said, so was I. Yeah, we were both so pumped. We knew we were going to win before it happened. And people say, well, how did you know? And it doesn't just happen overnight. It's just a combination of things that lead up to that point. I mean, we had been working for that gold medal, I guess, for 4 years. After we won bronze in Atlanta, we thought, you know what, this is our big chance. So the next 4 years were totally dedicated to that one day, that one particular day. That was our big chance. And a lot of things happened in those 4 years. Natalie and I split up for about 18 months because we figured that, you know, maybe you're not the best partner. Maybe there's someone else that I can win a gold medal with. And then in that time, we both changed. We both played with different partners that gave us different experience. We came back together and we're like, no, we are the strongest team. And then we got a success coach on board. We got a full-time physical trainer. We had our volleyball coach, Steve Anderson, and we formed this absolutely strong knit team that no one could penetrate. Even our national federation was on the outside and they couldn't come in. This was our team. This was the team that was going to get us there. So although Natalie and I, there were only 2 of us on the court, we're actually a team of 5 that had every base covered: volleyball, mind and physicality. So the belief of that team around us as well, all those 3 guys had 100% belief that we could get there as well. And not one day did they let us believe otherwise, not one day. It was incredible. It was just this was just a freak of coming together of these people, but we made it happen for ourselves. It doesn't just happen. We went out and looked for these people and said, you know what, they're going to be the ones that are going to help us get there.
I want to touch on some of the harder parts of that journey. When did you experience your first real sense of loss? Whatever loss means to you.
Within sport, you mean?
It doesn't have to be sport, but if there's a good
Real
example
sense of
in
loss. Well, in my life was probably when my grandmother passed away, because she was the one that brought me up from a very early age. Both my parents worked full time. My mum was a school teacher and my dad had his own tiling business. So, and it was very hard because I was actually overseas on a volleyball trip when she went into, I guess, a coma, and I quickly rushed home, and she kind of hung on where I always thought she hung on until I got home, and then she passed away a couple of days after I got home. So that was probably my first physical sense of loss within a family member. And yeah, that was obviously pretty horrible part of my life, remembering that.
Yeah. And how did you sort of react and respond to that situation?
I probably started feeling more closer to my family and my father, because it was his mother, and I felt very protective, I guess, of my father then, and you know, he was having his own issues dealing with it all. I probably just grew like closer into that family unit. I think that's what I can remember. It was quite a long time ago.
Were there any moments that you recall when you really wanted to walk away from the sport? Whether it be indoor or beach?
Whether I wanted to walk away. I did walk away once. And you know why? Because one of my boyfriends didn't like me going to training all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did. When I was about I think it was my early 20s. I was living with my first boyfriend, and he didn't like the sport. He didn't like the fact that it took me away all the time on trips and trips with other guys. So there was a jealousy involved there. And I remember coming home from trips and showing photos, and he wasn't interested. And in the end, he made me feel guilty about spending so much of my time playing my sport. And so I gave it up for a year. And of course that relationship didn't last, because I came back pretty quickly, and you know, after a year I'm like, no, this is what I absolutely love. It's such a passion already. So yeah, that relationship didn't last that much longer. But again, I was trying to please someone. I was trying to, you know, do the right thing, I thought. But, you know, thinking now I'm growing up, relationship, you know, I'm supposed to, you know, please him and please everybody and do the right thing, but it wasn't the right thing for me.
Yeah. And you touch on a good point, actually, because as you are growing up, obviously, trying to balance being a professional sports person with also being, you know, a teenager and starting to be able to socialise on a different level than what you had done before. How did you manage both of those roles?
Well, it's funny because it actually gave me an opportunity and an environment to socialise in.
Ah, yeah, right.
Because I had my friends at school, you know, but they weren't real close friends. I had my, you know, every Monday to Friday friends, sometimes catch up with them. But then when I played volleyball, it just opened up a whole new community of people that knew me as a volleyball player. And as a, you know, a volleyball player with a lot of potential, and, you know, growing up in that environment was the best thing ever, because they were all other volleyball people and we all shared the same passion, and fun and games. And I got to travel interstate, and of course there were boys teams as well, so we weren't sort of lacking that social interaction with other kids. And I mean, I started pretty late. I didn't start in my, you know, as a 10-year-old. I started as a 15-year-old. So definitely right into my teenage years then. So, you know, although we were serious, we still had the social aspect. And at that point I wasn't training for the Olympics. So, you know, a late night out wasn't going to harm anything at that point. So it actually gave me the opportunity to, you know, create or be part of a much bigger environment.
Do you remember the first day that you called yourself a volleyballer, when your identity was really linked to that sport?
I don't remember the first day, but it probably would have been when I made my first national team. So it would have been 2 years after I actually started playing the sport. The first night I played was with my brother's social volleyball team. He just asked me to fill in, and I filled in, and I loved it. And I said, wow, how can I play this? And he introduced me to the club system. And then from there I went into the state team pretty quickly, being one of the only 6'1" females. And from there into a national team. So I think when I first wore the Australian tracksuit is when I really thought, right, I've found my sport. I'm a volleyball player.
What do you call yourself now?
A mother.
Yeah.
I'm a mother of a 4.5-year-old. That's my number one thing, you know. I still do a lot of stuff. I still coach. I've written a book, so I can call myself an author, but I haven't got used to that yet. It's only been out for a few months. And I'm a motivational speaker. All sorts. I'm an all sorts. Yeah. But I'm a mother, first and foremost, a mother and a wife.
How did you work out that working in a team or in a partnership was for you and not necessarily as an individual on the court?
That's quite funny. I actually think I'm a bit lazy. So when it comes to exercising, I find it hard to motivate myself if I'm on my own.
Right.
So joining a team sport was brilliant because again I was accountable to other people, and I wanted to, you know, do the right thing by other people. So any situation where we're in a team and we had to do something, no problem. Yeah. If they then said, okay, between now and the next training you have to make sure you do a 3K run and, you know, something else, I'd struggle to get it done because I'd be like, oh, I'll just do this, I'll just do that. But if I had an appointment to meet a teammate or my coach, then I'd be there, no problem, because I didn't want to let people down. Yeah. And I carry that through in everything I do. Like I get an email these days and I really feel bad if I can't answer it within 2 days. You know, I think it's good etiquette to answer emails. Doesn't matter how busy you are. As soon as you can, have a 2-day sort of rule or whatever. But I don't like to let people down. I find it difficult to say no if someone asks me to help out with anything. But at the same time, I guess maybe I am a little bit lazy when it comes to exercise. So team sport was brilliant.